I'd like to continue with our example from the previous video of a drilling fluid to talk about allocating ingredients and parts from stock. That means removing them from stock to be placed into this batch, and then also about placing the finished product into stock. Let's look, for example, the barium sulfate here is the ingredient. There are 350 pounds needed for this batch. And if we scroll over to the stock column, you see that there are 1,500 pounds in stock. So you allocate and deallocate actually also by clicking on the button here and saying allocate selected or allocate all items. I'm just going to right click on barium sulfate and say allocate selected items, and it's proposing to take 350 pounds from stock. I'll say OK. Reminds us that, until you actually save this batch as a whole, the changes we've made won't stick here. So now there's going to be 1,150 pounds in stock with today's date. This is the date that I'm making this video, September 22nd. And if you notice, I'm clicking away here, the barium sulfate that we just allocated has a kind of like a light gray text in it that sort of indicates that it's allocated. You can't click into here and change that name, whereas you can click into the calcium carbonate. Most of the fields now for the allocated ingredient are going to be locked, except you can change the purpose or the no, it's not letting me change the knockout roll, but you can also put in notes if you want. Okay, so let's try calcium chloride now. The issue here is that really barium sulfate was the only one that had any stock, on it. So if we try allocating one that doesn't have any stock, it's going to present another dialog that kind of allows you to work around the problem by pre-entering, in other words, an amount that is in stock before it takes stuff out of stock. So it says that 90 kilograms are needed for this batch. Let's put in 200, well, how about like 350 pounds. So now what it's going to do is going to adjust the existing stock level from 0 to 350, and then it's going to take out 200. Let's do it. And so now, if we look, there's 150 left in stock after it took out the 200 pounds that it needed, 90 kilograms that it needed here. And we have another grayed out row. Now, the real way to maintain the stock in these things is to go to the substance section of the program where there's kind of like a quick inventory section. So I'm going to click on the links button here and select from the menu list substances for all ingredients. That's going to be these 6 ingredients here. It's going to show their equivalent substances. Now it's going to warn me because it says now you have made changes to stock levels for ingredients, and you have unsaved changes because of those. So if you press OK here, it's going to do an interim save. So going to preserve, make those changes stick. So now these are ingredients, or actually these are the substances corresponding to these 6 ingredients. I can show the inventory levels by selecting Quick Inventory, and then here we can see that there's 1150 of the barium sulfate and 150 pounds of the calcium chloride. So those are the 2 that we allocated. Let's put some amounts in for the others. Let's say we have 500 pounds of calcium carbonate. I don't know, 275 kilograms of calcium hydroxide. Let's say we have 650 gallons of diesel fuel. And silica, why don't we say we have 150 pounds. All this is just for the purpose of example. Then I'm going to hit return. So we're back to the normal display. Again, you can go back and forth between the inventory view and the other view simply by hitting those two items and close this to get it out of the way. We now have to update, though, in our stock. You see it's still got the old values here. So I'm going to right click and say on the contextual menu here, I'm say update all items, and now we have these values shown of the other items. Okay, so I'm going to, and you see the dates here for the two that have already been allocated, the barium and the calcium chloride. Now I'm going to say allocate all items. And so it's going to go through. First thing it notices is there are no jugs in stock. You know, these are what we're going to fill it into. What we need is 40. Let's say we have stock of 175. Okay, and so it's proposing to change 4 substances. And, well, I misspoke here. These are all the proposed changes that it's going to make to substances and all the proposed changes it would make to parts. So if we go down and look at them, most of these are just remove steps. But in the case of the jug, it's both going to adjust the existing stock and then remove the ones that we need. And there are 2 exceptions. Because barium sulfate and the calcium chloride have already been allocated, it's not going to allocate them again. So I'll just go ahead and do this. It tells you, sort of the same thing as before. And when we look at it now, we see stock levels that reflect the reductions that we had for the remaining allocations, and everything is gray. Everything is in faded text, I'm sorry. If now we want to place the whole batch into inventory, we can do that by clicking on the Into Inventory push button. You wouldn't be able to do this. It would give you an error if all the items weren't allocated yet. So let's click on that, and it's not happy because there's no completion date for the inventory. So let's go ahead and put a completion date in. That's up here. So let's say that we finished it 1/9/25, and the fill date may be same date, 9/25. Okay, let's try it again. And so it's asking now, do you want to place the whole amount in finished goods inventory, the whole 1,473 pounds? And let's say yes, we're going to do it. And it also doesn't have units of measure for inventory right now for the product. Okay, this is not for the ingredients. This is for this Davis Drill Right 202 product. So and it's also telling me that right now there is no stock. So if I wanted to adjust the stock before this one's placed in inventory, I would do that here. But I'm just going to leave that alone and say OK. And so it's been completed. It made the inventory adjustment from no units measured to pounds, and I put it in inventory. So I'm saying OK. And that's basically our procedure. You can also remove it from inventory, and that would basically just leave it in the batch here. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say done. And again, they're offering to update the substance for the changes we've made. I'll say go ahead and save the batch with a substance update. And that's it for this video. Thanks for listening.